Yar everyone, welcome to the Pancake Parlay episode 6. My name is the Don and I'm here with
Chowders.
Yeah, the reason why I was talking like that is I actually forgot that it's national what is it called? Talk Like a Pirate Day. I didn't know that until it was on my
Okay.
Captain Morgan's rum was just on there. I'm like, "Oh wait, it's Talk Like a Pirate Day." I remember I used to be obsessed with that. I dressed up as a pirate at uni once during that day, and it was like, "What the fuck are you doing?" I'm like, "Dressing up like a pirate, motherfucker." So yeah, I did that. And yeah, it's actually really funny. Yeah, because like once again, like I kind of revisited Pirates of the Caribbean, like the first one. I'm like, the name Parlay, like the Pancake Parlay. I had no clue what that was until that film came out. I'm like, what's a parlay? I don't know. I believe it's French, right?
Okay. Parlay, yeah, to parlay, I believe is at least the word itself is French in origin.
Right.
But yeah, no, it's quite interesting that you mention it because I was playing a video game earlier, and when I opened it, it gave me like a daily reward, and it was basically like it was like a pirate-based reward, and I was thinking, I don't remember like doing anything to receive this. So now this just brings in greater context
Yeah,
as
like I
to
got it.
why I've received it. It's like, okay, now yeah, it's like it was like 100 in-game like coins, and I was like, oh,
Right,
okay,
well, what game is
interesting.
this then?
Hearthstone.
Oh, Hearthstone. Yeah, I kind of missed the train with that whole thing.
Yeah, I mean it's an interesting game. I like played it on release, and this is given that I never really had much of an interest in card games like outside of Pokemon.
Come on, man.
And,
You
and then
actually played the Pokemon card game? Like
well,
actually
yeah,
played it
that's what I
without
was gonna
collecting
say.
it? Yeah, it's like the same with
Yeah,
Yu-Gi-Oh. I think I tried to play Yu-Gi-Oh like once or twice when I was younger, and I had
mm,
no clue. Yeah, it was like, can I just evolve
collect the
things?
cards. Yeah. I think I never got into play. I don't think anyone did. And if they did, they're a huge liar. But people generally, back when I collected Pokemon cards, they collect it for, just to have like a rare Charizard or something, and I think that was the case with me. I remember I went to America and, the first Pokemon movie came out. Pokemon the first movie, I think that's what
Yeah,
it went under.
what a great
Um,
title. Or I think it's,
yeah.
or isn't it? No, is it the first? Yeah, it's called the first movie 2000 or something like that, isn't it?
No, I'm pretty sure 2000 is the second one
Oh yeah, it
because
was. Once
what
again, just stupid title
2000.
like 2000. Like, dude, this is gonna change everything. 2000.
Hey, I mean, in a way, it really aged, right?
Yeah.
But I remember when I went there, I got my cousins and like my parents and my sister to watch this movie. Like I got them all to watch it, right? Because I was the only one, but I was the only one who wanted to watch it.
They're like, you don't
And we
understand
all
the Pikachu and stuff and Ash.
and because every person who went to watch those movies got a rare ancient Mew card.
Yeah.
And so I had like 10 or like seven ancient Mews, and this was before the movie got released in Australia. So I had it, and so I went and got more when I watched the movie in Australia. But I just had all these ancient Mews, and I kind of felt like the meme of like that kid who had an uncle at Nintendo. Like I kind of felt like that kid because I had these cards before they came out, and people were like, oh wow. Except it wasn't a lie. I actually had that Pokemon card.
Yeah.
Um,
Actually those Pokemon cards, I don't think they're worth that much, that one. Cuz I actually know
the
quite a bit
ancient
about
Mew one.
the Pokemon, I guess, card game collecting. So yeah, essentially a base first edition PSA graded set can
Mm.
kind of run you back. Like, it used to be pretty cheap. It used to be about $17,000, but now I think it's in total, like, you can see some hardcore collectors now, since they're very hard to find, it's about like $30,000. So it's jumped, and people working on that the second generation of Pokemon now, and that's getting up in price. So if you do want to get any of these things, it's either you jump on now or just never collect it ever again.
Yeah, well, to be honest, I'm not much of a collector. Like, I think I still have all my Pokemon cards. They're just somewhere collecting dust. I ended up like giving away a lot of those ancient Mews. So in in retrospect, it was like pretty dumb, but I was just a dumb kid
Hey,
trying to.
so long as you keep one for yourself, because once again, there's a weird tactic that's actually that goes around in the collector world,
Oh
where
yeah, I know about
where
this.
it's like
Explain it.
where it's essentially, you buy out the demand or how much supply there is, and then you literally destroy the actual copy of something. So that means yours is more valuable technically because there's less in the world. So some people actually do that, but like even if I had that, I'd be like, I have it, but it's gone, like, you know. But still, like, people do that for the sake of it.
I think to be honest, like, I don't know. Look, to be honest, it's more like a business thing, you know. So maybe you can put a little bit of insight in it. But if you controlled three, right, at least you'd have all those three, and then you could try and make more using the three rather than giving extra value to other ones that exist.
Oh yeah.
But
Well, yeah, that whole thing is like you see it a lot on eBay where they're just like, hey, I have this first edition PSA graded holo thing, and that's like, you know, something like a Zapdos, which is actually pretty high, but they're just like, yeah, but it's in a set with you know, really bad condition cards, but to get to this card you need to buy the rest. And I think that's how people sell it. Even some of the Charizards, they're just like, this Charizard's maybe like a first edition like 5, it's pretty shitty, but to get a first edition Charizard is pretty hard, and to get there you have to buy my whole set. So that's the thing. There's a lot of different things where, like, if you can find someone who's selling cards individually, or they're selling it in bulk, but it's a good price for bulk, it's one of those things where you basically just go for it, you know?
I see. Yeah, I probably have like a few, like maybe like some first edition Machamp that I got in like the original deck set. But to go back, like I'm not like, outside of those kind of games, I never really got into like card games. But Hearthstone, I don't know, I just started playing it and I liked it. I'm not even a big World of Warcraft fan. I like Warcraft 3.
Yeah, the same here. Like, I was more of a Warcraft 3 person. And yeah, I like, the lore and everything's really good. I like the world and all that. But yeah, I don't know. I think I just missed the boat in Hearthstone. Because once again, card games, I'm just like, yeah. But, you know, like, once again, something like surprising is like Gwent from The Witcher is like, you know, I really enjoyed that as well. And that has its own game. So I might actually check out some of these cards. There's a lot of them out there these days.
Yeah, there's a lot.
There's like apparently there's a Star Wars one. There's an Elder Scrolls one. There's like a lot of different ones, and it's kind of like, you know.
I haven't heard too much good things about the Elder Scrolls one, because I think it was just one of those things that all the people didn't really want either. It's, oh hey, look, it's something from you know, I forget who made Elder Scrolls, but
Bethesda, yeah.
Bethesda. It's like the one thing that like nobody, and I think it's similar to how recently I think Dota,
League of Legends. I think someone isn't someone else like League of Legends or Dota.
It's Dota. It's Dota.
Yeah, Dota making a card game. Yeah.
Yeah, they're also releasing a card game, and I think once again it's I think there's a really great video of the announcement where the audience is just kind of captivated by this announcement, and when it gets revealed that what they actually are announcing is a card game, there's just this universal like disappointment noise that gets like, you know, released by everyone. Yeah, so I think it's gonna get quite saturated. Hearthstone, I think, has the monopoly currently on you know, the card games, and I think there are some better tested card games, like, you know, like as you mentioned, I think Gwent and, you know, other things like that, but I don't think they have like an established player base that Hearthstone has, just because I think there's a lot of crossover between you know, World of Warcraft and Diablo.
Not only that, but yeah, for some reason, like, Blizzard is just really freaking good at marketing their games and just making it appealing to everyone and making it they have like an addicting loop to it, where, like, you know, World of Warcraft has a loop where people stay in. Same with StarCraft or Warcraft. Even Overwatch has that type of element where it's like, you know, they give you just the right amount of satisfaction, especially in Diablo. Especially Diablo 3 with the early looting, where they give you that much satisfaction for loot and killing things that you just continuously play. So yeah, like, Blizzard knows kind of, it's called the secret Blizzard sauce, if you will.
Right.
And they just they just know how to design something to make it addicting.
Well, the thing is, like, I know that a lot of other free-to-play games kind of reward their players at a reasonable rate. And I think a lot of the community in Hearthstone definitely have a very hard time maybe grasping a new deck, for example. Like, if you were a new player, you probably wouldn't have a you know, a set of cards that would help you compete with other people in the game. And so Blizzard has been kind of helping, but yeah, I think other companies definitely do a better job. But yeah, once again, it's just this monopoly thing. And yeah, it probably comes back to how you say they're marketing it, because I think you can play Hearthstone on your phone, so that's probably part of it too. But
The
yeah,
addiction
so
goes everywhere.
yeah,
Yeah.
uh,
So what else have you been doing aside from playing Hearthstone? Because yeah, that
yeah, but
it is addictive though. From
yeah.
what I've heard.
I've been watching Rick and Morty.
Oh yeah,
Um,
everyone's classic, scientist and little boy who does weird things.
Weird things, yeah. I think the latest episode that came out this week was it was a little bit of, I guess, a reference to a previous episode where they looked at uh you know TV channels on the like
Yeah, like
galactic web.
it's a thing where it's like every single season they have like a semi clip show, but instead of a clip show being like recycled footage, it's like things that you never saw, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And so that's what it was in this episode. Instead it was about all these memories that were taken out of Morty's head, whether uh due to his own request or because Rick did it himself. It's kind of a bit of a thing, but I think the episode was okay. You got a little bit of more insight into Rick being an asshole or Morty doing something dumb.
Yeah,
But I
but
think
that's the thing. Yeah, the key thing was in some of that you actually find out that Rick is not, I guess, the super god, that he doesn't make any mistakes. You know, in I think it was like the pink valves are the ones where it's like the memories that Morty has of Rick basically just being an idiot, and that's the thing when it comes to playing with context of who the who the, I guess, the audience viewer is showing. I think it's mostly like Morty, because he's the surrogate of being like, I don't not understanding, and basically Rick telling him everything. So maybe like if it is playing some sort of weird like trick on that type of thing, maybe it's like a view on Rick that he might not be the super scientist that he always says he is, or he is, but like not infallible, I guess.
Yeah, it could be. I think the one thing I did like was in this episode they did reveal that they had to universe hop again, because during the episode, because they had to in, I think, season one, because they ended up like kind of turning the Earth into like this post-apocalyptic like wasteland, which they, I think, revisit at some point. But anyways, basically he talks to some sentient squirrels, and turns out the squirrels are behind like all of the world's like disorganization and destruction.
So
And yeah,
yeah, 9/11 was an inside jobs by squirrels, you know.
by squirrels, yeah, basically. And so they had to universe switch again. So yeah, it's quite interesting, like just have a bit of a callback. But I think it wasn't actually this episode, but last week's episode that I really liked, the Rick Lantis mix-up.
Mm.
And it was in this episode they went back to the Citadel, and they had this really great grand story about kind of like a multitude of different things.
Yeah, breaking your chains, being an individual, things like that.
Yeah, just touching upon like racism, even though like the races are Ricks and Mortys. It's all done in a very like nuanced and smart way, while once again like calling back to some things they set up in the previous seasons. It's probably been my favorite episode this season.
Yeah, once again, it's solid, and that's what I really wanted from Rick and Morty, and that's why, earlier before I was discussing about basically dissing on Pickle Rick, because I'm just like,
Yeah,
sure. Like I'm like, come on, man, I know the show's smarter than this, and this was the smart thing I was looking for in Rick and Morty. I'm like, thank you, you got to a show where it's like that, and once again, that's part of Rick and Morty's appeal to me is the parallels between, I guess, the human condition and basically society and things like that, and then how we view it, and then Rick and Morty takes a weird like spin to it, and that's what I really like about it.
yeah, completely agree. Also, in what you were saying just then about the human condition, another show that I've been watching is Bojack Horseman. I've
Once
finally
again,
got around to it.
the warring feud, because I think I've told you this before, but there is a warring feud between BoJack Horseman fans and Rick and Morty fans, and saying which one is the definitive, the funniest, and the best cartoon, like
Yeah,
animated funny cartoon.
yeah, I remember you were like you mentioned it, I think, on the very first podcast.
Mm.
But I don't know. Can you elaborate more? Because I actually have no idea. Like outside of me telling you and I guess the audience that don't participate because they're
Yeah.
less great. But what are people's kind of, I don't know, like
Well, I don't know. A lot of it is kind of shit posting. Everyone's just like, yeah, yours is shit, whatever. But yeah, I don't know. I think a lot of it is because I've watched one season of BoJack Horseman, and I've heard it does get better like throughout second season, third season. But yeah, because a lot of it is, I guess, kind of a deconstruction of, I guess, once again, themes, characters, situations, and things like that. And I think Rick and Morty does the exact same thing. It just really depends on, I guess, your type of humor and the way it approaches things. Like I personally like Rick and Morty more in the way it approaches things. And then yeah, BoJack has, I don't know, it's a different type of humor where Rick and Morty's kind of in your face and it's kind of maybe got slightly more open appeal, but BoJack is, I feel like it really, the type of humor that it does have, it kind of goes on a specific type of humor. That's why I know some people, for I know, don't like Curb Your Enthusiasm. Some others don't like, It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia because
right.
sometimes, it's something like It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. Those characters don't learn anything throughout the 12 or 13 seasons. They don't learn anything. Whilst like other sitcoms, they learn through and progress. So it just depends on how egotistical they think is, and I think in this new season of BoJack, I think BoJack, I think, is supposed to be someone who's kind of being redeemed or like learning, I guess. Is that correct?
I mean, I think that kind of happens every season. Now, I've only watched about, I mean, 5 episodes, and again, I the thing that kind of happens with BoJack. So okay, so just to answer like some previous questions about Rick and Morty and BoJack Horseman, I think it's they're quite different. They have pretty similar like themes in the sense that as you mentioned, deconstructing like social norms and kind of talking about the human condition in a pretty complex way. I think
With a goddamn
in
talking horse.
yeah, well, but that's what I mean. Like the fact that, like whether it's a talking horse or like a turtle or I don't know, chicken or something, it's all at least makes sense in universe. Like nobody cares that they're chickens or whatever. It's never really explained, and I think that's kind of a good thing. 'Cause it just leads you to wonder what's going on, and maybe they'll touch upon it. I don't know, in their final season or whatever.
It's the Goofy theory where it's like, so Goofy is a dog, but technically Pluto is also a dog,
Also a
but
dog.
also
Yeah.
acting more like a dog. So this is some weird effed up world that they're living in.
Yeah, maybe, but it's like, but then also, like, they also the animals play into the stereotypes their animals would be doing. Like, they would be up in the air, flying, and like eating chip. Like you'd have like seagulls pecking for chips and stuff. So I don't know, but I don't know. In BoJack Horseman, I feel a lot of the characters are definitely broken, right? Like they definitely do feel more grounded as opposed to the characters in Rick and Morty. Because obviously in Rick and Morty, they're just like jumping into like spaceships and going to space and doing all the science and getting up to shenanigans. Whereas you could like everyone might be an animal, or they might be a person, but that doesn't really matter in regards to what they're going through. Obviously, there are stuff like that happen in Rick and Morty. It's just more subtle in how they approach it. Like Rick having depression and I think in the last episode of I think Rick and Morty, I think Beth admitted that I think she likes I forgot her name, the daughter. I forgot the daughter's name.
Summer, yeah.
Yeah, Summer. Yeah, like she likes Summer more than Morty. So all this kind of stuff that's like family issues, or just it just comes out bit by bit, as opposed to, oh, like I have like a sex addiction and I'm an awful human being, and it's like, and that's kind of what it is with BoJack Horseman. But at the same time, it's what you said with all those other you know sitcoms, I guess, where the characters don't necessarily learn from the previous mistakes. I'm not too sure because I haven't watched the rest of this season, but if the theme of BoJack Horseman and this season before, it kind of doesn't seem like he'll learn too much from what's happened in the past. But we'll see. I think if you like BoJack Horseman, and the series, and kind of what the people are going through, and the more down to earth kind of stuff, with obviously your wacky jokes and pop culture humor, it's got all that.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think people will like it because it's still more BoJack, and I think that's a good thing.
Yeah, I think it's like currently I think it is the underdog when it comes to Rick and Morty, because I think Rick and Morty for some reason has just taking up to new heights. As soon as I think midway through season 2, for some reason Rick and Morty just freaking blew up, and I think BoJack I think is currently in its 4th season, and it's kind of getting there, but I don't think it's blown up to the open appeal that Rick and Morty has. And I think it once again it is the genius of Rick and Morty of implanting funny moments in it, where example the Szechuan sauce, or when it comes down to getting swifty and things like that, they're really good with that.
Yeah, there's far more I guess random humor, and the humor is it's interlaced throughout the whole thing. Whereas I guess the humor in BoJack Horseman is, oh, it's BoJack getting up to something dumb, or here's a pop culture reference that you might get, because I'm sure Netflix has done the math and they know what kind of targets they're
your Netflix
hitting.
theory of Netflix theory, where they know stuff.
I'm saying Netflix knows things, big business knows things, and I definitely, do believe that at least with something like BoJack Horseman, which is I guess a Netflix staple, it's probably something people would be suggesting, hey, if you got Netflix, you got to watch this, right? They would be sharing their data in regards to making that show the best it can be. I kind of like this season because one of the characters, she's gone from being a professional journalist to, I guess, a kind of like a BuzzFeed blogger. So she's kind of went down a peg, but it's funny to see.
She's shelling out, being like, yeah, this is not what I studied for and what I really want to do, but I guess I have to do it.
Well, in a sense, it's probably because she can't get a job. I kind of forgot what happened last season. I actually had to watch a little bit of the last episode of last season to remember, just to see what the consequences are. But so it's she works in a BuzzFeed styled blogger place, and it's just as ridiculous as BuzzFeed and all those other major blog sites are like. So I do find that they have captured the essence of what those places are like as well, and they parody it. And I think that's another thing they do really well. They do parody a lot of things. While it is in your face, it is funny to see what little hints and stuff that they put in. And I think Rick and Morty does that great as well. Again, I think just enjoy both shows.
Yeah, they're good.
Good quality stuff.
From what I heard, they're good. I think I'll jump on the BoJack Horseman train probably soonish, because once again we're kind of in a dead zone when it comes to TV, where I think and until October 10th or so, everything kind of comes back at that point. So until then,
you're right,
and that's why I'm kind of actually watching some old stuff and some new stuff. So I'm going to talk about the new stuff, which is The Tick. This is a property that's based off a comic book that had a cartoon in the early 90s, and then it had a live action TV show for one season, got cancelled, but I think fans of The Tick and know what The Tick is really love The Tick, they're obsessed with it. And I guess they got another way to they just redoing The Tick, because Amazon, what they do is they have pilot season where they give out a certain amount of money, and they hire out a few directors and writers to make a pilot of something, and if it's successful and it gauges a lot of interest, if it gets 5 stars on their Amazon for customers, it gets made into a full-blown season. And people really like The Tick, so they made it into a 8-episode season. 6 episodes have been released so far, and I really love it. There's not much humor when it comes to a lot of superhero stuff in general, unless it's really intentional. Yeah, because that's the thing. The Marvel stuff has humor, but this is it knows what it is, and it goes full on cheesy with its humor, and that's what I really love about it. And yeah, it's obviously it's a TV show about the Tick, but it kind of normalizes heroes, but it's done in this very cheesy, very over the top manner that I guess it kind of parodies something like Batman and Robin in the sense
Right.
of, yeah, like, but that's a compliment, you know?
Mm. Well, I mean that parodying something good doesn't make it bad, obviously. But yeah, so the Tick, it's like what? Like, is he supposed to be like Batman, or is he more like a Superman parody, or I actually I'm not familiar with the Tick at all outside of the name and maybe how the character looks like.
Yeah. So yeah, the Tick character itself is someone who's kind of I'm trying to get a good euphemism going. I think it's someone who kind of fails upwards in life, whereas a superhero where he's really strong, he's really powerful, he's pretty much indestructible, and he's more of a nuisance. For example, like a tick. A tick is a nuisance, and
Right.
yeah. So he's essentially just someone who's very oblivious to everything, but somehow gets things done. And that's kind of the TV show where he's a superhero. It follows one of the other main characters is this nerdy guy who has past trauma with superheroes. He's just a random lonely nerdy guy who just wants to be left alone. But then he kind of gets shoved into this superhero world, and he's like, I don't want to do any of this. I don't want to really be a part of this. And then basically the Tick's kind of forcing him to do it, and just going into kind of crazy situations. But like it's not done in a stupid way. It's done in a really smart way. Where the really cool thing about this show is, instead of an episode finishing and kind of being done with it, I feel like this whole season, these 8 episodes, it basically links into one big kind of movie, one big story arc, where like the next episode would literally start off where the other episode just finished. So it's kind of one big story. Really great acting, especially with the Tick, because his type of acting is a buffoon, I guess, but he has that childlike innocence to him, and that's what I really like about the Tick. So I think check it out if you really do, if you are in the if you really like the, I guess, superhero genre. It really is a take on the whole superhero genre and what it would be like in a, because that's the thing, a lot of superhero stuff these days, they don't really, I guess, focus on the human perspective of what it's like to be not a superhuman powered type of person, and what living in this world would be like, and it kind of follows just normal trends of like what would the news would say and things like that. So I would actually suggest the Tick. It's really short, 30 minutes per episode. You can get it done really quick.
Nice. Yeah, like would you say like the episodes are very similar to the South Park episodes? Like how the recent South Park seasons have been 10 episodes, but they all like linked together. Would that be like kind of similar? Obviously, you said it's more like a movie, so maybe it is more sequential.
Yeah, like it literally does take off as soon as the episode ends. So it feels like it's kind of one big story.
Okay.
Because it basically just follows the story of that nerdy guy who had a past trauma of his dad dying from this supervillain, and everyone thinks that supervillain's dead, but he has a conspiracy saying no, he's still alive, and I have the evidence to prove it. And it's basically just following through like him, and everyone doesn't believe him about all this stuff because he has past trauma, and everyone's like, no, you haven't taken your medication. So it's got a little bit of that back and forth of is it real, is it not real? And it's just really funny because the Tick is like, he's really powerful, but he doesn't act like he's a powerful person. He doesn't have that like, I'm gonna stop you person. He's just kind of like, yeah, cool, whatever, I'm just doing whatever I need to do. So yeah.
What about like One Punch Man, maybe?
Yeah, kind of like, yeah, like that's a good euphemism, which is One Punch Man, whereas I wouldn't say he's like One Punch Man in the sense that he's bored.
But like his attitude.
Yeah, his attitude, where he's just kind of whatever, like he laughs in the face of danger, like literally, because he just doesn't see danger at all. He's very bored about all this stuff. So yeah, so I'd suggest that. Another thing, which I swear to God, I did not plan to do this because it's Talk Like a Pirate Day, but I was watching the second season of Black Sails, because there's so much.
Yeah, whatever.
No, I'm dead serious. I was like, yeah, I watched it about 2 to 3 days ago. I'm like, oh yeah, I only watched one season. I kind of left it alone because no one really talking about it. It's finally finished, 4 seasons. So I'm like, oh yeah, I might as well pick it up and kind of finish it because there's not much else on TV. And then saw on my Facebook the National Talk Like a Pirate Day. I'm like, oh shit, I planned it. Like I somehow didn't even know that I planned it. But yeah, Black Sails is a pirate TV show made by stars who did a Spartacus TV show, which is actually really good. I'd suggest people actually watch Spartacus. Did you watch Spartacus at all?
No, although I do know there are some people from Spartacus that make an appearance on Arrow, from my understanding. So
Yes, the Deathstroke. I forgot his name, but
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, Manu someone. I don't know his full name, but he's pretty cool.
Yeah,
So
he's pretty cool.
I mean, yeah. So I do know him from Spartacus, but that's about it.
Yeah, so once again, Spartacus is a really good TV show. You should watch that as well. And Black Sails is kind of like, if that's Spartans in that type of era, this is kind of their pirate show. And I think so far the second season got a lot better. I think the first season once again is trying to trying to find its footing of what it's trying to be, establishing all these different characters and their motivations, things like that. Like try to think of like first season of Game of Thrones and how like these characters have progressed. Season 2 kind of builds up on all this character development and plot, and it kind of just puts him straight in a pirate type of situation. And yeah, I really like it. Acting's top notch. You got some good action scenes here and there, and I feel like this show should have been, I guess, talked. It's kind of like a hidden gem. I think it should be talked more, in the kind of sense of something like even Spartacus didn't really get it, but something like Vikings. I think Vikings gets a lot of praise. I think Black Sails should be kind of around that kind of pedestal of something that's pretty good. It's very entertaining. If you like, I guess pirate hijinks, definitely should watch it because they got, it comes all the way to things of mutiny of different ships, to different pirate rival gangs versus the I guess the British trying to hunt the outlaw pirates, all the way to finding hidden treasure. So it's literally got every single pirate element in there, and it's something like this really hasn't really been done. And ever since I was a kid, I really liked pirates. So this is kind of something that I wish I kind of jumped in the bandwagon a lot more earlier. But I'm watching it now. I'm really enjoying it, and yeah, once again, 4 seasons, so 40 episodes, and I can't wait to watch the rest.
Yeah, I don't think I've actually watched a lot of shows that have come out of the Star Network.
I watch a lot.
Yeah, like the only ones that I've seen, I think the only one I've seen is American Gods, and I love American Gods.
Yeah, like once again, yeah, that's their most recent one. Because once again, Spartacus, I really liked it. Black Sails, I'm loving it. They even did, they're doing at the current moment Ash versus the Evil Dead. Which is I
have heard of that.
Yeah, which once again I really love. So once again, the Stars is doing some really good stuff, and I think they have some. I don't know what it is, but I think they have some sort of partnership with New Zealand and Australia, because a lot of the talent that's actually in all these shows are Australian or from New Zealand or from somewhere.
Oh, okay. So with Ash and the Evil Dead, like what's the basis of that? Is that like a sequel, or is it like a reboot, or what's the go?
So Ash vs. the Evil Dead, it's kind of like it's a sequel to the movies.
Okay, so it's a sequel, right?
Yeah, so essentially, the way I guess it kind of like Evil Dead's one of those weird things to kind of talk about. So Evil Dead 1 is kind of standalone, and then you have Evil Dead 2, which is kind of like a rehash of Evil Dead 1. And then kind of Army of Darkness, which is Evil Dead 3, which is more of a comedy film more than a horror comedy. That's a sequel to Evil Dead 2, and essentially that is kind of the plot of Ash vs. the Evil Dead, where it picks up a few years later, where Ash is a little bit more older, he's a little bit more kind of bigger, I guess, and he just meets up with a bunch of people and he needs to save the world again with a band of crew, and it's really funny. It has the same. It feels like Army of Darkness, which is the third one. It's more of a humor, comedic thing, and I was actually gonna pick that as my pick of the week, but I'll talk. Yeah, but I'll say it. I'll say it now because I might as well say that is my pick of the week. So, the main reason why I was actually picking it for the pick of the week was because it was Halloween's coming up, and I'm like, what's a good costume should I make? And I'm like, Ash is a funny guy. So I'll do Ash. So I'm like, oh yeah, I'll suggest Evil Dead. So I suggest Evil Dead 2 first, 2, then 3, then the TV show. You can watch the reboot if you want. I think it's pretty good, but it has no relation to anything else. So if that helps you. So you haven't watched any Evil Dead at all?
I think I've watched the original Evil Dead, but it was ages ago. I couldn't tell you like what goes on, like other than the fact that there's chainsaws and zombies being killed.
Well, that's the thing. I think a lot of people know that because that's an Evil Dead 1 didn't really have any of that. It was played as like a horror film. Like it didn't really have I guess cheesy elements. And I think Evil Dead 2, it's kind of a rehash. That's what I was saying. It was rehash of Evil Dead 1, but where it's more of a horror comedy where it has some comedy elements to it, but it's also a horror movie. And then the third one's a full-blown comedy in a way. And then it's got that really good mix that Sam Raimi is really good to do at, where Sam Raimi I think is really known for, like, he can make some stuff, like really good stuff, but he makes a lot of cheesy stuff, and it depends if you're into the cheesy stuff, like Spider-Man 1 and 2 or 3, but
Right, yeah, that's true. Hey, as much as people hate the Peter Parker dancing scene, I did find it entertaining to watch. It was really dumb, but I found it entertaining.
Once again, like he knows how to make something that is kind of dumb, but once again, it works in Evil Dead's favor where it's kind of dumb comedy fun, and it's just once again, Evil Dead I think is one of those horror franchises that certain people really love, and others are just like, it's okay. But because that's the thing, if you look at the IMDb ratings and Rotten Tomato ratings of Evil Dead 1 and 2, they're like 90%, like 8.5%. Like they're very, very high, and they're highly regarded for some people. And I think a lot of people might not get it, but own prejudices, I guess.
Yeah, maybe. I think people would probably enjoy it. At least again from memory. But yeah. Anything else you've been watching?
I've actually been playing. So what I was actually doing, because I was once again backlog of games, trying to figure everything out. I kind of I played a few hours of The Division, which came out like a year and a half ago.
Yeah.
And man, like, it's kind of entertaining, but at the same, like, there's still people playing, and that was my worry, because I'm like, I better play this now, or else no one's gonna be on. And then half the fun of this game is playing with other people, because it has that mechanic of you can, when you're in the, I think it's called the dark zone or whatever it is, you can betray people. You can team up with people, but there's like a loot system where it spreads it out. But the more people that get killed in your team, the more goes to you. So it's kind of like this weird betraying, selfish type of thing, and I really like that type of mechanic.
High risk, high reward. Right?
Yeah. So I was kind of playing that. And I like it, but I think there's just a few things that piss me off especially after playing another third-person shooter before it, which was Mafia 3, which was all right. My main problem was the controls were pretty damn awful. Like
in The Division. Or
Mafia 3? In The Division, because it took me. I had to look up online how to throw a grenade, because it doesn't really teach you anything. And
really,
it was really bad, because that's the thing. It's because that's the thing. The left and right bumpers are kind of your special skills. Like any MMO or anything like that, you have a special skill set. So I'm like, how the hell do I throw these grenades? So I had to look it up on Google, and it's like you gotta tap it, then it gives you this little arc of like where the grenade's gonna throw, and then you press the right trigger. And I feel like in 2016 standards, that is not a good way to actually throw a grenade or use equipment for your games, because I'm like, what, you have to hold it. It's very cumbersome and clunky. So every time I feel like I'm throwing a grenade, it's not reactionary. It's like very, I have to look at it and throw it. So I don't know. I got kind of pissed off by that. And I guess since it is in natural terms an MMO and kind of like an RPG, a lot of it is grinding. There's a lot of areas and a lot of missions where it's like, these guys are really tough. I was stuck at one mission for about an hour, because like it was just really hard. I'm like, I don't want to back out now. So I just I basically just kept on committing until I basically just won. But it was very tough, because I was a lower level. There was a sniper. You got 3 bars of health. One bullet from the sniper takes 2 bars of your health away. And I'm like,
right.
And then I'd have to survive on 1 bar, and it would slowly like regenerate health. And I'm like, I was in this limbo, and it took way longer than it should have been. But
yeah, so you basically had to like wait and cheese it out in a sense,
more or less. Yeah.
Yeah, I think for games like The Division, and I think Destiny to a certain extent, they are kind of these games that are following a little bit of this kind of MMO, but it's like an RPG. Sorry, it's like a FPS or a third-person shooter. I think the first kind of game that got it kind of right was Borderlands. I'm a really big fan of the Borderlands franchise.
Well, that's the thing, yeah, because they once again they said they're making Borderlands 3. We don't know when it's coming out, but it's gonna come out, and obviously they're gonna have that, like, they already have that co-op online element, but it was done really well in Borderlands. I don't know if they're gonna do something like it is like an MMO and it's a world where everyone's in the same area. I wonder if they would do that or not.
I don't know. Like, I kind of think they have to in a sense because at the ending of I think Borderlands 2, they do reveal that there are other, I guess, vault worlds that exist, and I think the only way that they can really kind of explore that properly would be through an MMO. But at the same time, I think if the game probably does go through that, it would probably be a significantly like worse game. I think, but in a way, I think Gearbox, they kind of have to go through that route because I think their last few games like didn't do that well, from memory.
Yeah, like the most well-known one I think is Battleborn, and that had
that.
the very unfortunate thing of coming out just before Overwatch, and kind of had the same idea in the same space. Like if it came out 1 year earlier, maybe it would have had a little bit more success. But yeah, like,
well, the thing is, the games are completely different, to be honest.
They are completely different. I think the problem is that I think everyone tried to cash. But not only that, but everyone is still cashing in on the MOBA aesthetic of one kind of one or two maps, different heroes with different abilities, and kind of, that's kind of, because everyone wants the new hot thing, and I think that was the hot thing, where it's kind of like, and Overwatch kind of has that kind of element where it's a shooter, but it's not really necessarily ranked on kills. It's more ranked on teamwork and things like that. So everyone has that kind of thing where it's I think it's called, they generally call them hero-based shooters, where they have different abilities. Where everyone is different ability. It's kind of like the early proprietors of this was Team Fortress 2, and as far as I know, I think that's still an okay-ish community from something that was pretty much released 10 years ago. It's still, I think, going pretty strong. I think.
Well, yeah, I think TF2 is still going pretty strong from memory, but yeah, I don't know. It's just really weird in regards to its failure pretty much has led to the hemorrhaging of the price of the game. I think it's really cheap now. It just kind of reminds me also that Mass Effect Andromeda, I think, is on sale for like $15.
Yeah,
like $20.
Trust me. I bought it. I'll play that really soon, but I bought it. Like,
okay.
Once again, you were talking about Battleborn. I saw a random picture of someone posting on the internet being like, it's $4, and that's Australian dollars. No, it was $6. I'm like,
$6.
That's ridiculous. Yeah. That is like, you only see games that price if they're literally like 6-7 years old, and they just want to get rid of the damn thing. So yeah, really unfortunate. But even then, I think Gearbox, and from my stories, from what I've heard with Gearbox, is that they've been kind of really bad with their money. Because you got to remember where Gearbox is coming from. Remember, they made Alien. It's not Alien Isolation. They made Colonial Marines, and no one bought that. It was a big stuff up that kind of hurt their reputation.
I think people bought it. I think the issue was that the game that they promised wasn't the game they released. Because if you compare the trailer of the game to the actual product, they show like the graphics look pretty good, like for the time. And also, like, there are like lights swinging and like, displaying like, moving light. Like, there's all these kind of really, like, I guess now it sounds really dumb, but in terms of the ambience in the game in and of itself, it definitely disguised itself as a very different game. And from my understanding, they used the funds from Colonial Marines to fund Borderlands 2.
Yeah, I've heard that story where they basically did that, and then all the really good talent went on to Borderlands 2, and then they're just like, Aliens is there, go have fun with that. So yeah, I don't know how much goodwill they have. Obviously, they need Borderlands like 3, and because once again, I think people who like Borderlands really fucking love Borderlands. Like, these people are obsessive. Like, I'd say I'm a Borderlands fan. You know, I kind of like the humor. I like the world. I like Claptrap, for example.
Right.
But yeah, like I was one of those people who bought the super special loot crate edition or whatever it is, the big freaking crate that they released of Borderlands 2.
Ultimate, I think it's what, like Ultimate Bolt Hunters or something
Yeah,
like that.
I bought that. I bought that. So
Mm.
I'm one of those types. I'm one of those people.
Nice.
Yeah, but yeah, we'll see what Borderlands 3 is, and I hope it's something good, because I think at some point I think they have to basically they know they've been working on they did a tech demo of a cell shading game, like, yeah, this fucking Borderlands 3 basically. So the real question is, yeah, when are they going to release this damn thing, or at least announce it?
Yeah, I don't know, man. Like, I want it to be good, but I've just got like this bad feeling that it's going to be bad. Especially a lot of games that have kind of had a huge, break between the last game has been quite disappointing as of recently.
Yeah,
It's
once
kind of
again,
happened with a lot of games that have had a lot of hype as well. I think the other day, there was this PS2 game, that people were hyping for ages and ages. It was like had like a giant griffin or in it. Ah man,
Giant
forget.
Griffin, Jesus.
Yeah, I don't know.
Wait, what do
It's
you do in the game? That like it kind of sounds familiar, but Giant Griffin. No, wait.
yeah,
Do you mean The Last Guardian?
yeah, I think it's The Last Guardian. Yeah,
Yeah. They came out on PlayStation 4. Yeah, it was supposed to come out on the PlayStation 3 back
it
in
was 3. I thought it was PlayStation 2 that was supposed to come out in. I
no,
don't know.
because that's the thing. That developer, I think they're called Team Iker. So they made Iker. They made Shadow of the Colossus, which is getting a remake, and everyone loves Shadow of the Colossus.
Yeah,
And then
I've
after
heard
Shadow
of that.
Colossus, they were supposed to make Last Guardian, which I
Mm.
guess you could, yeah. And then they announced it back in 2006 with Final Fantasy Versus 13. The main reason why I know all this, because it left a deep scar on me and a lot of gamers.
Yeah, sure. As a
So
Final
it's like,
Fantasy fan.
yeah, so they're just like Final Fantasy Versus 13. I'm like, oh my god, and even 13, and that came out freaking like in 2010. So it's 2006, 2010. That's a long time. So they announced that. They announced this game called The Last Guardian, and everyone thought it was basically just gonna be this amazing thing, and it basically had to. It came to the next generation. So
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm looking at the score for it. It's got at 82% on Metacritic. But the thing is, I just haven't heard anything from this game, given that it came out almost a year ago now, and the hype behind it. Maybe I missed the hype, you know.
once again,
But
the hype died within that 10 years. Okay.
But that's what I'm saying. Yeah, but this is what I'm saying, right? That's what I'm fearing about, all these other games that are coming out. Like again, like we mentioned Mass Effect Andromeda. That was a game that was pretty hyped. It had a pretty sick, trailer song.
Yeah,
But
they
yeah,
always do that. Even Mass Effect 2 had it. There was 2 Steps from Hell. I remember that. Yeah.
yeah, and that's what I'm saying. Like, they all in the end became really disappointing because they either waited too long or yeah, like they just poorly mismanaged the game. And as we were just talking about, Gearbox mismanaging things, it could be something that we'll see again with the game. Again, it's not something I want. It's just something that could happen. Like in a sense, like we were talking about, PUBG, Players Unknown Battlegrounds,
Oh, so good. Yeah.
last week. And we also
Almost contemplating just quitting this podcast right now to play it, because that's
have
how
to play it.
that's how it's got its claws on me. It really is an addiction.
Yeah, well, I was saying because H1Z1 came out as its first, I guess, arena-based, I don't know, battleground game. I forget what the genre is called, but now, PUBG has come along and just kind of ripped that title from them, and everybody plays that. In a way, I kind of think that's what's going to happen. Well, at least a minor prediction from me is what could happen with the release of Borderlands 3 is people just won't care because Destiny 2 is out. Which, by the way, is another thing that's out that hasn't. I don't know. I didn't feel like it had a huge fanfare. People.
Yeah. I feel
Yeah,
like
when the first one
if
came out, people cared.
Yeah, because that's the thing. It was hyped up because it was Bungie's new thing. It was new and inventive because after being on Halo for so many years, they're doing something new and inventive, and once again, it was one of those things where, because in Bungie fashion, from what I know from Bungie, is they like to over promise, under deliver, and that's kind of their motto. And like from Halo 2, 3, a lot of their games they do that, and Destiny, they were supposed to have this thing where you pilot your own ship, you go to different areas, different planets, meet up to have these different things, and basically it was just a very samey FPS MMO.
Wait, are you sure? Are you sure? Are you sure you're talking about the same game?
Yes.
Because I
No,
feel
no.
like you're almost describing what's that other dumb game that came out that everybody was hyped about?
No Man's Sky.
No Man's Sky. That's
No.
like exactly what you
No,
just
but
said.
no,
That's what
I'm-
I thought you were
No,
describing.
I'm dead serious. Look up all the
Really?
old transcripts and things like that of what they wanted Destiny to be.
Destiny?
They wanted to be this being
Interesting.
thing where it's like it's an MMO. You have your own ship. You have your own crew. You're gonna go out there. You're gonna hunt things together. You're gonna have multiple races to choose from, and they all have their different skills. And now it's really kind of boiled down to this very samey looking plain thing. And I think that kind of turned off a lot of people. So I think with Destiny, it's one of those things where if you were on board with the first one and you liked it and you stuck with it, I think you need a Destiny 2. And I don't think Destiny 2 is for new people. I think it isn't aiming to get new people. It's aiming to get the same player base, and that's one of those things. It's mismanaged things because Activision, from what I heard, I think they paid like a few $1 million, if not like $1 billion, for the Destiny, I guess, brand, and they said, we're gonna make Destiny for like 20 years and things like that. So they've had high plans for it. So once again,
Well, I mean, yeah, I don't know, man. Like, given the fact that I had like, I don't know, for me, when it comes to a lot of games, I do like the single player side of things, or at least like the story side of things. I know Destiny had like all its story basically in Grimoire cards, or just cards that you have to like look up on your mobile, or look up like in client, which just sounds ridiculous. I've heard that's switching away from it.
Yeah, that once again, that was early like 2013, 2014 game development where it's like, well, you can use your smart device, like for example, like Watch Dogs, where it's like, and someone, and even with the vision, like, oh yeah, that drone, it's piloted by someone on their iPad, and you can control whatever. Like that's all gone now. Crossplay between all random devices are completely gone, which is also good because it's one of those random experiments where like we have all this new tech, we might as well do all this stuff, and then it always kind of flops. And that's
it's just a thing that like somebody in a board meeting, they said like, hey, what about this? And someone higher up thought it was a good idea, and therefore they implemented it. I don't think that people they did the same thing with, I think, Dead Rising 3. They had like a mobile phone app or something that like corresponded in the game, which you had to use. Like, again, it's all this kind of dumb stuff where they're just trying to nickel and dime.
It's a random selling point.
It's I don't know. Like, I get why they do it, but it does it at the expense of the actual original game.
Well, that's the thing. There's some that actually do it really, really good, but it's like for example, like Bethesda did it. Like, they have the mobile app where it's basically your Pip-Boy, and you can kind of change your equipment on the go without pausing the menu, and just use it on your phone, which I thought was pretty cool. But like, once again, it was one of those things where maybe I used it a few times and then just never used it. But it's one of those things
because you figured out it's easier to do in client.
Yeah, it's like, oh, hold on, man. My friend's gonna always be connected, and take a long time. Yeah, as we were talking before, it's one of those things where it seems like last generation of games, big franchises aren't hitting as big as they did last generation. You could even say something like Far Cry 4 to once again Mass Effect. But then you look at something like the Witcher series, which I've been championing since 2007 when it was a PC only game. 2007, even Witcher 2 only came out PC and Xbox. I've been championing Witcher for a very long time, and then I think Witcher 3 is one of those things where it's like, oh, this is this new IP we have here. What the hell is this? Witcher 3, and then basically everyone's freaking played Witcher 3 at this point.
I think Witcher 3 had some mainstream appeal, but I think more because of the second game. I don't think a lot of people played the first one.
Yeah, the first game was very like, especially if you play it now, it's a very 2007 RPG game. Like it feels like the first Mass Effect, or it feels kind of like the first or even like the first Dragon Age, where it's kind of like got all this stuff going on. Is less streamlined, I guess. And I think Witcher 3, even Witcher 2 kind of streamlined it a bit, because once again, Witcher 2 is hard. I think that's one of those things where it turned off a lot of people. Where Witcher 2 is, if you're in combat, you do have to plan it out. You have to make your potions, mix it together to fight people. And Witcher 3 had that, but like it was more forgiving. Like Witcher 2 was punishing in a way, and I think if Witcher 2 came out today, especially with the Dark Souls era, I think it would have done really well. But I guess that's the way it is. I'm not really one of those Dark Souls people.
I was gonna say, if we were gonna talk about Dark Souls, then we'd have to go on a different kind of tangent. But I guess we'll save that for a different podcast. In my opinions on Dark Souls, not that it's all bad, not that it's all bad. There's certain parts of it I don't like, but it triggers a lot of people. You mention anything, because I just think once again that a lot of online communities can be quite toxic when you don't have the same opinion about things or any kind of criticism. And I think the Dark Souls community can definitely be that. But I do know a lot of people who are quite nice about it too.
Yeah,
so.
like once again, I'm all for you liking your own thing, but if you say this is the best game ever made, just cool your horses. All right, you gotta play a little bit more games until you figure out what's really good and what stands out.
Meanwhile, last podcast I was just like gushing all over Chrono Trigger, but no. But in all seriousness, I'm pretty interested in seeing, where, Borderlands 3 in particular will go. Because whether or not it does go for the single player, which is kind of a big risk, because single player games, or co-op games rather.
Yeah, it'll definitely be co-op. Like that's you can always.
It definitely will be that, but like, will it have things just for people to play online about,
like some raid type of thing or whatever it is,
because they had that in the game, but I guess it was all in client stuff, like you'd host your computer and your friends would join into your lobby, right? Are they going to be doing something that is kind of like a huge raid, given that like the customization stuff is getting pretty crazy in Borderlands, so I can just imagine like, screw it, make your own character, make them wear whatever colors they want.
Yeah.
I can see it all, coming into like, people doing the whole customization thing and loving that aspect of it.
Well,
expanding.
Well, my only problem with that would be, once again, it's the new thing. It reminds me of, Diablo 3, where it's like, since you have these loot things, and it kind of had it a little bit in Borderlands 2, but I think it's gotten more normalized, I guess, now, where it's, paying for loot boxes. That's generally what I think it's going to be, where it's like, maybe the expansion...
There'll be like a super duper ultra loot box and you have to pay for it.
Yeah, type of thing, where it's like real life kind of money for it, and like, because it's like the, to get all these really good guns, the small percentage of getting it with a normal drop, but hey, if you pay some extra money, you're guaranteed to get it. Like, and I think that's kind of the way the thing goes. So long as there is a good trade-off. I was talking about before where, now Gears of War 4 and Halo 5, all the actual downloadable content is free. They just have these, I guess, map pack type of things, or like, as in like these little cards being like, you're buying these particular items, which I don't mind so long, because that's the thing, it keeps the whole community focused together. So that's what I'm, basically.
Yeah, I think so long as the weapons and the drops that you get from these items, you can get in the game, and that also, it's not something that, like, I guess there's people who enjoy PvP. I don't care, but like a lot of the people do. If you use these loot boxes to get stuff and it just gives you just straight up broken weapons, I can definitely see that being a big no-no and not being a thing that happens. So if they kind of counter all that, then I think having paid loot boxes is fine. It's like, pay like $5 and you get a guaranteed legendary. People do that in Hearthstone, so I don't see why it can't happen in with virtual guns. If people want to pay it, go ahead. But if you can get it in the game like regularly, so long as it's not like really ridiculous in terms of like the drop rates. I know they did end up changing the drop rates in Borderlands. Man, all this talk about Borderlands 2 makes me want to just play Borderlands 2.
Well, actually, I didn't. Yeah, once again, you probably said you haven't probably finished it. I haven't even played the pre-sequel, which I heard is all right.
Well, no. Oh, you know what? No, I've finished Borderlands 2. I just never got around to playing the very last DLC, which is the Dungeons and Dragons themed DLC. Which so I never got around to playing that one, despite sounding really cool. So it all makes me want to play it again. But I think I might just have to get maybe a pre-hacked like save file, because I kind of don't want to go through like Vault Hunter mode like 50 times and stuff. But
Oh yeah, I
yeah,
remember that. Yeah.
yeah, because I just want to play it all like being level whatever and just go straight from there. But yeah, the pre-sequel is actually pretty funny, man. Like it's basically I know it didn't do that well, but I think it's definitely a game designed for Aussies because it's just got because I think it was made by I think Gearbox Australia or Gearbox Sydney or something like that. And it's just laced with like Aussie humor and it's just really dumb. It basically the moon is space Australia.
Mm.
And it's just the humor is really great. But subsequently, I can see why it didn't do so well overseas because maybe they might not get some of the humor, or it's just like what the hell is this game talking about? But there's a lot of cool mechanics, like I liked all the kind of the oxygen stuff, and the air jumping stuff. Like it'd be really uh interesting to go back if I do end up playing Borderlands 2 again with all this talking about it without it because found it quite convenient. But yeah, we'll see.
Yeah.
It is
Once
quite
again,
fun.
yeah, yeah. Well, I'll probably play that probably on Australia Day or something like that. But yeah, like I like how we have pre-talk between Borderlands 3. It's like we know it's happening, but at some point. So that's all I've been doing this week. So what we're gonna do is we are going to be jumping into our question of the week, and our question of the week is inspired by basically Chowder's kind of choices when it comes to animation. And remember, you can always talk to us and email us at pancakeparlay@gmail.com, and email your suggestions of questions as well as your what you would actually suggest as well. And our question of the week is, in 50 years' time, what cartoon will stand the test of time? So my main reasoning behind this is well, that's the thing. Do you want to go, or do you want...
Yeah, I'll go.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, I think it really depends on how how hard nostalgia keeps up for my pick. I think
Because what I was thinking of mine would be like,
yeah,
what would be semi-relevant still in 50 years
50
time,
years from
or
now,
doesn't age as bad in
as
50
badly.
years
Yeah,
time.
I think animation is kind of moving more towards like 3D. So I think more traditional like hand-drawn animation is kind of always going to be looking at its best. And I don't know, I've got a deep appreciation for like Batman the animated series.
By
Just
the way,
because
that that is my choice.
I've stolen your choice, mate.
Don't worry, I'll be the devil's advocate and find something else.
No. But I'll just go. Well, I mean, the thing is, we can talk about why we think it is the case.
Yeah, once again, two people can't be wrong, right?
Yeah, exactly. Come on. And if you're listening to this podcast, you kind of like our opinions to a extent, right? Yeah, Batman the animated series. I just love it. Just the feel of it, and just the era that it was made in is very like again, it's like this kind of neo noir kind of setting. People have
where it's old looking aesthetic of the 20s and 30s, but like it has modernist technology. Once again, that was one of the main reasons why I was choosing it, because it's kind of timeless in a sense, where it's kind of stuck in this weird capsule that didn't exist, but it has this really good sense of atmosphere in the way it presents its not only the way the environment works and how the animation works, but also its characters, where you can really trace back basically the impact that the animated series had on not only Batman but comic books in general.
Yeah, I think in particular, like my one question, and which I started off with earlier, was how hard or how much nostalgia would allow for the show to last, because maybe in the future, people will look back and be like, well, why was this so good? It's like the Seinfeld effect. Like they don't understand why, Batman was the animated series was heralded as like a really good cartoon.
Because they invented Harley Quinn, guys, which is actually really funny because I think it's Harley Quinn Day like a few days ago.
Oh really?
Like, yeah, I think.
Oh
yeah,
yeah, well the 25th, wasn't it her 25th anniversary or something?
yeah, like first creation by Bruce Timm and Paul Dini from
Yeah,
the animated series, which once again you could be like trace back. Oh, this Harley Quinn that's taken over the world. Where did she come from? The animated series. You're welcome.
Yeah,
Good or bad, you're welcome.
well, but that's what I'm saying. Like, I think she was like the first original character from the TV series that jumped into the comics. So that just goes to show, as you said, like what kind of influence the show had. I guess the thing is, maybe like when they look back and they think, oh well, maybe they don't like the aesthetic so much, like because they don't have, humans don't have a fascination with, the 20s or the 50s or whatever, John or whatever year it is to get crazy about. But I think overall, the series is just solid, and yeah, like I think that really goes to show with like the rest of it as well, like Batman Beyond. Like again, it's set in the future, but it's always like this future that never comes. It's always kind of pushed off, like from 2000 and like 20 to it's probably going to be 2030 because we never really get to that future where there's flying cars and people hacking from, I don't know, like their suits and
Yeah, it
stuff.
reminds
So,
me of like what is it, Back to the Future, Part 2, when it had its anniversary, I think like 3 years ago, where it's like some things were right, but hoverboards still don't exist.
yeah, I'm very disappointed. No hoverboards, mate.
No,
But yeah, I
only
think
the really bad ones with stupid wheels or whatever the hell they are.
to give maybe something that's a little bit different, I guess I might pick Avatar: The Last Airbender.
I knew
Um,
that was gonna be one of the. It was gonna be like when I was thinking about it, I'm like, you're gonna choose one of those two.
right. Well, I mean, Avatar's not so much The Legend of Korra. I think that definitely had a lot of issues, but I think that's also partially due to kind of some of the financing and I guess release schedule of the episodes. But I think the Avatar: The Last Airbender, the original series as a whole, is definitely a hallmark in terms of like storytelling, characterization, just I don't know, just solid world building, animation, which is kind of like the I guess point of the question.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Avatar just kind of hits everything, and you're definitely very satisfied with how it all kind of builds up. Like you're starting from the beginning and you're following the journey of Aang, aka the last Airbender, up to the end. And I think to view it in just its whole, it's quite good. What about yourself? Do you have like anything else that comes to mind that might be heralded as a staple when it
Yeah.
comes
Well,
to
that's the thing.
animation?
Just slightly on Batman and the animated series. It's you could also trace back between the characters and it really did develop a lot of the villains of the Batman universe and really just made them like feel like every single character has some sort of stakes and they really were three dimensional. That's my take on the animated series. So when I was thinking about this, I'm like, there's a lot of good animated stuff out there. So for example, like Rick and Morty, that could be a contender at some point, depending on how
We'll see.
we'll see how it goes. But like, I really like Futurama, but I'm like, if it's set,
Oh, Futurama is pretty good. I'd pick
yeah,
Futurama.
but that's it. I was gonna pick Futurama, but I'm like, in 50 years time, maybe it'll feel dated, being like the year 3000, we have this in the year 2000, whatever. But I feel like Futurama might be like even good in that sense because if it's in the future, maybe there is some parallels between like what's happening in the year quote 3000 versus in the year 2067, for example. Once again, it's really smart. Like I feel like Futurama was the start to what led to Rick and Morty. Like I feel like Futurama really started where it's smart writing. There's a lot of deeper meanings about emotions and things like that. And I was even South Park's really good, but once again, I think South Park's one of those things that might not age as well, not just in the animation, but I guess in the sense of because South Park's really good, but it's really good at capturing a certain section of time in a bubble and getting everything right. So in 2067, everyone's going to be like, what the hell is all this random stuff about? Like, who the hell's Britney Spears and why is she dying or whatever? Like, stuff like that. Like,
Yeah. I think definitely with South Park, like, because I watched it maybe like a year, probably longer, like maybe a year or two ago, like the whole series. And yeah, like the first couple of seasons were just kind of like, I don't get a lot of the references, but like there is the odd reference here and there that you pick up. I think for the time it definitely was quite good. But yeah, it definitely is something that probably will definitely age exponentially as time moves on. But yeah, I think your choice with Futurama is like pretty good because I think it's set in like year 3000. Like it sets like a pretty big range
yeah.
for what is considered the future, but their future is also like dumb enough to like not really be the future. So you can kind of, it can last longer than it actually is, but still hold its own, even if we get up to that time period.
Yeah, well, that's what I was saying about the parallels between it'd be really good because in the future, for example, in that 50 years time, maybe we do have some sort of spaceship type of thing, for example, and maybe there is some sort of life out there or something like that, and it'd be very interesting to be like, what would people in like 1990, no, it was like 2001 ish, feel like thought about what the future would be like, and I think that'd be something very interesting, and I still think it still stands on its own, especially with the jokes and how it's perceived and things like that. Even with a side note, I don't know, could you say Simpsons would be a good choice? Because I feel like it still encompasses like I guess like family values and then just kind of it does, like I think in the more recent seasons it really has kind of stuck onto like what's popular these days. Let's kind of make fun of it. But I think like once again that earlier heyday seasons they really just have these general just good episodes. Just good writing,
yeah.
and I think like even to this day, like 20 plus years on, a lot of that stuff still ages really well. Quality of writing and things like that. But they're still funny to this day.
Yeah, like I've heard like, the newer Simpsons episodes are like better. There was like a period where it wasn't very good, like hence why I kind of stopped like going from like religiously watching Simpsons when I was younger to like kind of being like, meh, it's a thing that exists. Yeah, I don't know. Like I don't know if as a body of work it would be something that would last 50 years from time. Like I think it'll definitely given the way it's going, it'll probably last that long. So maybe in a sense it does qualify.
It'd be
To
like
lasting
it
that long.
won't even be nostalgic for people. They're just like
Yeah, it just is.
in the future, it'll be like, oh man, I got suggested to watch The Simpsons. Man, I have to start from episode 1, season 1.
Yeah, yeah,
That would be
exactly.
a task. That would be a task.
Oh man, that would be insane. No way, dude.
Mm.
But
Some
maybe hey,
person
look, maybe
no, that's the thing. Some person out there will do it. If in 2050 or whatever,
statistically,
someone
statistically, I
but that's the
guess.
thing. I try to kind of do the same thing with Batman media, where I'm like, I'm gonna read every single Batman issue and also every single Detective comic issue, not starting from 1936, and I could not do it. I got up to 90.
Well,
I got up to 1940. I'm like, no, and then I just obviously skipped to Batman Year One, and that's basically the real start of Batman.
yeah,
Batman,
yeah, yeah. You should definitely just not read like kind of the older stuff because it's more like campy, cheesy. More yeah, like the more of the newer stuff, like the Morrison runs are quite good for you, like people to latch onto. I
Yeah,
guess.
because
And
I remember
understand.
once reading one storyline where Batman helped this failing actress being like, my parents are coming downtown because I told them that I was a lead in this musical, but I'm not in the lead. What should I do? And that Batman's like, I'll fix this. And yeah, that's literally the storyline for one of those things. So I'm like, I found it like some of the stuff I found very interesting, like the origin of the Joker and where he started, or even Catwoman, even the Batman's first villain I think was Clayface. That was the first villain he faced, and I feel like stuff like that is kind of cool for someone who really likes Batman stuff. But yeah, like once again, most comics these days, you like for anything, you can really skip up until like not just Batman but everything up until the 80s. The start of the 80s is kind of where
I think
where all comics kind of got their stride together of what everything is kind of encompassing.
I think definitely it's when definitely at least for DC Comics, it's just definitely like in the era when they had their, I think, Infinite Crisis.
Yeah, and that was like the first big event thing, like, and then now everyone's doing it all the time. But yeah, that was basically the origin of it.
I think definitely. I'm trying to remember if it was Infinite Crisis that had all the Marvel characters in it as well, but I could be thinking of a different one.
I know there was multiple crossovers. I think somewhere in the late 80s, early 90s, there was once again there were multiple crossovers, and then at some point they just stopped doing it. So
yeah, well, I mean, yeah, they definitely like stopped becoming cooperative in regards to it. Man, it's actually killing me that I don't remember, because there's this great scene where it's Superman holding Captain America's shield and Thor's hammer, and it's quite a the fact that like it's an actual canon picture as well. It's not something that is like a fan made image of Superman, but yeah, what was I gonna say? Oh, yeah, but yeah, so in terms of animation, yeah, I think we've hit the nail on the head, really.
Yeah, because that's the thing. Because I was thinking, I'm like, what animation has it? Like, I think something like Seth MacFarlane stuff will age, if not, is already has aged. I guess like it's
Mm.
really just it's its own
Yeah,
thing,
yeah.
and
I
like,
mean, what is it? Futurama? Like, I haven't even. Sorry, not Futurama. Family Guy. I haven't
hmm,
even like cared about that stuff in ages.
you
You
could
know,
say it's not even relevant now.
yeah, which is kind of ironic.
Yeah.
Because, anyways.
Well, that's the thing. Like, even like I was kind of looking through a list. I'm just kind of like a lot of Warner Brothers stuff did really well. Like Animaniacs, I kind of really like, but that's kind of its time still.
Mhm.
Even like Superman and the Superman animated series, I think doesn't get enough love as much as like the Batman series, but I think it's as comparable as
Yeah, yeah. Superman
Robert
the
Batman.
animated series pretty great. Yeah.
Yeah, like so I think that's one that needs some praise. I'm like, and I was just thinking, I'm just like, yeah, like not a fan of Steven Universe or like a lot of these.
Have you seen Gravity Falls?
No, I have heard that's pretty good. So
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
might check that
Well,
out.
well, you know what? I think it's probably a good time to transition into our pick of the week.
Transitions. Well, you already know mine. It's Evil. It's Evil Dead. Well, Evil Dead 2, 3, and then you can watch the TV show and the reboot if you want. I don't really like Evil Dead 1. I'm one of those people. All right.
Oh, okay, interesting.
Yeah.
You know what? Like, given that I just mentioned, I would recommend Gravity Falls. It's definitely so this is this I guess the story of the show is a bunch of brother and sister. They go to visit their grunkle, which I think, if I remember, is their grand uncle,
So that's actually a
Stan.
real term.
Well, at least that's what they call it in the show. I don't know if people actually call their grand uncles
It's gonna catch
grunkle.
on everyone.
Yeah, maybe. Um, they go and visit their grunkle Stan in a place called Gravity Falls, where a lot of, like, kind of mysterious, magical and kind of X-Files like stuff happen. And it's their adventure during their summer, with their uh grunkle there. Uh, Obviously, I don't want to give away too much because there's a bit of a mystery ongoing from the seasons, but yeah, it's quite solid. But the other thing I'd like to recommend, that isn't a TV show, is and we were just talking about comics just before, is the DC Metal titles, or it's Dark Days Metal. Um, Basically, it's talking about a big mystery in the DC universe, and the origins of a certain kind of metal that has basically been giving energy and power to a lot of the artifacts that exist in the DC universe, going from Wonder Woman's lasso to uh, Hawkman's, I guess, Spike Club. It's just exists in all these things, and it's just this really grand mystery, that's existing in the world that's also separate from, I guess, the Watchmen stuff that's happening in DC, which is also really cool. But I'm personally recommending Metal because, yeah, if you're a big comic book fan, it's definitely kind of going back to its roots in terms of giving this really big mystery, and not it all being kind of predictable and cheesy. Yeah, DC's doing it right, and yeah, so I'd recommend Scott Snyder's
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah. Because
uh,
I was wondering if it was Greg Capullo or Scott Snyder, but
yeah,
Scott
yeah,
Snyder's
yeah,
still
yeah,
doing it. Yeah.
yeah. And for anyone who actually read uh, the New 52 Batman, um, it's all very related. So a lot of the stuff that he kind of whether or not, like, I'm going to be really impressed to kind of know later on, once the whole story's released, how far into this he kind of thought of the story, because it all comes back into not only New 52 but also a little bit from Morrison's run, and I think Final Crisis, when Batman actually got shot by Darkseid and sent back in time. That was a thing that happened.
Yeah,
But
cause comic books, right?
because comic books. But the thing is, I say that, but the Metal series actually gives a little bit of context as to why he was able to escape in the first place. So it's all very interesting to see how it all kind of comes together, and also a little bit of the mystery. Like, the thing that I liked in particular, they talked about, and I think they give a little bit of a hint too, that the metal properties, like, it's also found in the Lazarus pits as well. So there's all these kind of mysterious things that this metal is existing in. But yeah, so give it a watch.
Well, read.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's a read rather. You know what? I'd love it if they turned it into some
Hey,
kind of
honestly, I
animated
wouldn't be
series.
surprised if
Up
at
there.
at some point they make it into an animated type of thing. Once
Yeah.
again, like, but that's the thing. You could probably make it animated, um, but once it comes to like live action with a lot of different like properties and stuff like that, I'm like, I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, once again, from what I've heard, I haven't read the most recent type of ones, but what I've heard, like DC is really hitting on a stride that like Marvel seems to not be hitting at the moment.
Yeah. By comparison to, I think, what is it? The new Captain America Nazi guy. I don't know. Did I mention about how Captain America punched? Oh wait, uh, the real Captain America came out of the cosmic cube and then punched Nazi Captain America. That's a thing that happened.
Yeah, it's just
And
bad writing.
again, hero versus heroes. Turns out it's pretty boring and nobody cares.
Yeah.
And it's selling really badly apparently. I think IDW recently released a I guess I don't know, like a news headline about how a lot of their comics have been underperforming because of quote market leaders like Marvel. So we're kind of seeing it affect the comic book industry, which is a shame because comic books are pretty neat. And have been giving rise to a lot of things that people are liking these days. But we'll see how they go.
Much like comic books, at some point it'll probably get rebooted, and then they'll be like, none of this ever happened.
Yeah, maybe we'll see. Hey.
Yeah. So that would be us for the week. You can always check us. I think this podcast, depending on where you live, will come out every single Wednesday or Tuesday. Once again, depending on where you live, because I live in Australia. You can also find us at Stitcher. You can find us directly at Libsyn, which is Pancake Parlay /Libsyn.com. You can also find us on Omni Radio, and also you can find me on you can find this podcast and other things on my YouTube channel, which is at Marketing Movies at YouTube. And that will be us for this week. So I guess we'll talk to you next week. See ya.
Catch you next week.